Coffee and Cargo. I see quite a bit of people still joining here, so we'll let people join in and then we'll get started. So I'll kind of go through some introductions. My name's Rachel. I work with the marketing team here at Interlog. We have Emily, who is our project manager here at Interlog, works with me in the marketing department, and she'll be kind of going through the current events here in a little bit. And then we have Harry, who is new to Coffee and Cargo. Hi, Harry, welcome. He also works with us in the marketing department, and him and I are going to have some conversations today about some market updates. So welcome, Harry, and thanks for joining us here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, we can kind of go through the agenda. We're, like I said, going to do market updates, and then Emily will take it over with current events, and then we'll end it out here. So we're going to have a few polls pop up. So we like to hear from you guys on your feedback. So while you see those pop up, get it filled out for us, and we really appreciate any feedback. And if there's any questions throughout this webinar too, we have the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. If there's any questions throughout this webinar, get it in there and we'll reach out to you guys as soon as we can. But thank you for joining and we'll get started. So I think kind of a big topic right now in our industry is what's happening with rates, what's happening with some of these canals. So I think, like a lot of you have probably noticed, rates have been leveling out here this last week. It's kind of the first time since May that we've seen this. So that is something that we want to touch on. And Harry, I know you have a lot of thoughts on where it's going to go into Q4 and into kind of peak season here. So would you like to tell our audience what you see happening with this trade lane?
Yeah, in the coming months, I would say there's always going to be uncertainty with that. There's going to be a lot of speculation naturally, but at least from our side of things, as far as the next few weeks go, we're seeing sort of this temporary plateau, almost like this leveling, where it's going to be almost like a quick water break for the market, where people can go just sort of take a deep breath and think, wow, like the market's certainly shown some teeth here and it's escalated over the past several weeks, but this is a good chance, I would say. And again, there's an element of uncertainty in predicting it, but I would say there's going to be a good 2-week window here where if you have cargo ready, we want to stress that this could be a good time to do it, just because we do think that the carriers are going to hold off from holding it or implementing rate increases, which was a big issue to begin with and why they rised so emphatically in the first place. We're expecting them to hold off on that the next 2 weeks here. So that said, the question then becomes, okay, if I keep waiting now, what's going to happen 2 weeks from now? What's going to happen a month from now? Because that could very well be, maybe they do fall, maybe they do stay the same. But if they don't, which past few weeks, even months, they haven't fallen, they've only gone up, you're going to be looking at, that uncertainty. And we're going to talk about this later, but the peak season aspect of it too could come into play, where if there's more demand in the preceding weeks here, rates are going to be a lot more vulnerable and more likely to just go up. So I guess the key to all that is if your cargo is ready now and it's possible to move it, don't wait and look into options, I would say.
Yeah, I think that is something I know our team is really having a lot of conversations about, is since we are seeing it level, and we all know how there is uncertainty the last few years with everything that's happened in our industry, taking action when you can to save money and to get things here as soon as possible before peak season, before holiday shipping. So if this is something that you guys have any questions on or want to talk to an expert right away on to take advantage of this level out rate situation that we're dealing with here, I think we would be happy to get you in touch with our experts and have those conversations. So yeah, I think another thing too is with capacity with peak season and holiday shipping, Harry, what is kind of happening on the East Coast?
Yeah. Well, as we've been discussing a lot internally, there are there is a difference on the capacity side as far as what you're seeing on the West Coast and then on the East Coast.
Mhm.
Um, I would say the main factor, or at least sort of the sleeper issue, if you will, so far has been that element of the contract talks on the East Coast, which they also impact the Gulf Coast as well. However, it seems a lot of the conversation has to do on the East Coast. Uh, for those sort of out of the loop here, there is a upcoming contract deadline, and there's currently a contract cycle for a new dock worker coastwide waterfront contract. Um, it's between the ILA and then the USMX, which United Maritime Alliance, which consists of maritime employers like carriers and port authorities and terminal operators and all that. But there seems to be a lot of friction right now with that in terms of getting a contract done. And as we've covered a lot in our market updates and in our newsletter, if a deal is not done by the end of September, the ILA leadership has vowed for there to be a coastwide strike from their union rank and file. So that obviously, given their rhetoric, and they've been a lot more vocal than other unions or past contract cycles. So shippers have taken note, and particularly be interesting to hear your guys' comments if you're an East Coast shipper, actually. But there has been a difference in shipper behavior on the East Coast because they are sensing that anxiety and wanting to get cargo in before possible disruptions that we could see in fall if a contract isn't met. So that said, vessel space is tightening at a comparatively more tight clip than the West Coast, just because there is that anxiety that, hey, I want to get my cargo in at these East Coast ports before they're susceptible to labor strife. So
Yeah, and I think we're also seeing kind of an early peak season as well due to some of these concerns that are happening here in September. So yeah, if you guys have questions on any of those market updates, let us know. You are going to see a poll pop up here. We'd love to hear your take on what is a big concern for you. I know everyone has different concerns and a unique situation. So let us know, and we really appreciate it. But kind of going into the canal updates, with the Suez Canal, there's not too much of an update there, but the Panama Canal is getting pretty close to just going back to its normal operations, which is great to hear. I think due to the year that we've had with the drought with the Panama Canal and the concerns and congestion and delays with that, the Panama's government has figured out a way to hopefully help with that in the future. So they are making a new reservoir with the Indigo River. So I think it's about a 6-year plan. So it's not anything that's going to be happening soon, but I think it's great to see them take actions to help prevent any issues down the road when we are kind of with low water levels. But with that too, having Panama open up, it is allowing some of these East Coast shippers more options to get their cargo into the East Coast via Panama Canal versus rerouting due to the Suez Canal disruptions, not rerouting it through the south of Africa. So that is great news for East Coast shippers as well to see that go back to normal operations. But yeah, that's kind of our market updates. Harry, is there anything that you would like to mention before we hand it off to Emily?
Nothing in particular. I will say Emily will touch on the East Coast talks a bit more. So if you guys are curious in hearing more details about that, Emily will give you some answers here.
Sweet. Emily, we'll hand it over to you with the current events.
Sounds great. Thanks, Harry and Rachel. Like they both kind of alluded to in our previous conversations here regarding the East Coast and Gulf Coast labor negotiations, some of the latest updates that we've seen is recently the ILA union said they are still far away from reaching a new master contract with their employers, USMX. Again, a big part of these discussions remains automation issues. They still have not reached a resolution with a carrier regarding automations issues at some of the ports. So that has kind of been a big discussion in these negotiations. And again, as Harry talked about, they are remaining pretty firm in their stance that if a deal is not reached when their contract ends on September 30th, they will go on strike. That always remains uncertain, but this is just what we've been hearing and seeing. Moving on to our second current event. In case you haven't heard, there was some rough weather in South Africa a couple of weeks ago, into early last week. And it impacted some vessel traffic. Actually, some vessels had to actually stop and wait for these high winds and these heavy storms, one even producing a cyclone. And of course that, impacts shipping operations as well. And an interesting note, we don't always hear this too often, but one vessel actually had 44 containers go overboard due to these high winds. And these situations are a good kind of introduction to our kind of claims assistance process that we have, which is created to solve kind of the lack of standardized claims filing processes. We empower our shippers to kind of demand payment from every carrier who has kind of impacted their damaged cargo. So if you're interested in learning more, definitely reach out, or if you have any questions regarding Interlong's GCA claims assistance process, please let us know. And then our last current event, I swear it's been kind of the summer of strikes or potential strikes, but the Canada Rail Union, TCRC, Teamsters, and CN, Canadian National, and Kansas City Pacific, Canadian Pacific, Kansas City, have been ongoing in these bargaining discussions. They've actually been working without a contract since the end of December last year. Right now, no strikes or worker lockouts have occurred, and this is largely due to the Canadian Industrial Relations Board. They have opened up an investigation, kind of deciding whether these critical shipments, if they should be required to continue in event of a strike. The CIRB has said that they would issue a ruling on this by August 9th. Again, no strike or worker lockout can occur during this. So these are a few of the most recent industry happenings so far. As always, we kind of put these in our newsletter, so please definitely check those out. But that's going to conclude today's webinar. Harry, Rachel, appreciate all of this conversation today. And of course, all of you, we hope you enjoyed today's webinar. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us and we'll make sure to get back to you. So thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.